Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to these presentations. Today, I would like to discuss to you about the potency of N3 polyunsaturated fatty acid, or PFA, to help reduce severe complication in COVID-19. My name is Gusman Santika, and I'm from Master's degree of Department of Chemistry in University of Indonesia. First of all, let's talk about the lipid and fatty acid first. A lipid is a various organic compound that are insoluble in water, and it's including fats, waxes, oils, hormone, and certain component of membranes. And lipid have a primarily biological functions in our body, such as a structural component of cell membrane, energy storehouse, important signaling molecules, etc. And there's the three types of lipid. First is triglyceride, and phospholipid, and then a sterol family, such as cholesterol. As we know that triglyceride can be broken down into a more smaller molecule called fatty acid. A fatty acid is a carboxylic acid with a long aliphatic chain. And there's three types of fatty acid: a saturated fatty acid, unsaturated fatty acid, and polyunsaturated fatty acid. As you can see in the pictures, that the saturated fatty acid has no double bond, and unsaturated fatty acid has double bond, at least one double bond. There's two types of unsaturated. There is trans, which is each atom is opposite, and the cis types, where the H atoms is in the same site. And we can say as polyunsaturated fatty acid is when there is more than one double bond in the structures. In polyunsaturated fatty acid, or in short is PUFA, we know something called omega, symbolized with N or W, like that. It is referred to the positions of the final double bond in the chemical structures, which is closest to the tail ends of molecular change. As we can see in the pictures, there's two types of fatty acid, N3 PFA and N6 PFA. The simplest molecule of N3 PFA is α-Linolenic acid, or C18-3. The C18 referred to how many carbon in the structures, and 3 is referred to how many double bond in the structures. And we can see in the omega-6 PFA, there is a simplest called linoleic acid. And then we know that anti-PFA is essential fatty acid. This is essential for our brain and immune system, and can only obtain from diet. So we cannot synthesize these structures in our body. As I said before, the simplest anti-PFA is α-Linolenic acid, and in short, we can say as IALA, ALA. And this molecule will metabolize into another long-chain fatty acid, such as eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, by elongation's metabolism. The dietary anti-PFA positively affects several psychological processes modulating health status, such as regulating the plasma lipid level, cardiovascular and immune functions, glucose metabolism, and neural development. In mammals, α-Linolenic acid determined as essential fatty acid, or AFA, because they are not able to synthesize them. But conversely, many animal species are able to metabolize this essential fatty acid into long-chain derivatives that contain more than 20 carbon atoms. And there is a derivative of N3 eicosanoid, such as prostaglandin, with 3 series of double bond, has function as anti-rheumatic, thromboxane, anti-aggregations, leukotrienes as anti-inflammatory, anti-apoptic, decrease ROS, and neuroprotein as anti-inflammatory, anti-apoptic, decrease ROS, and brain and visual development. A. Alpha-linolenic acid can be converted into long-chain PFAs by desaturation and elongation enzyme system. The main metabolic site of PFA in mammals generally is in the liver. In the picture, we can see the alpha-linolenic acid metabolized by delta-6 desaturase into stearidionic acid, and with help of elongase 5, becoming eicosapentaenoic acid, and with delta-8, delta-5 desaturase, becoming eicosapentaenoic acid, or APA, and it will elongase again with elongase 2, become docosapentaenoic acid, or DPA, and elongation again with elongase 2, become tetracosapentaenoic acid, and desaturase with delta-6 desaturase, become tetracosahexanoic acid, and it will oxidating with beta oxidation, become docosahexanoic acid, or DHA. The natural source of anti-PFA, alpha-linolenic acid is widely present in common vegetable oil and food, such as rapeseed and canola oils, green leafy vegetables, nut, marine algae, spontaneous herbs, and the most concentrated vegetable source of alpha-linolenic acid is linseed. And also we can make anti-PFA source in fish and marine product, but the most common fish source of this polyunsaturated fatty acid is the fish of Scombroidae, Clupeidae, and Salmonidae families. Let's move to SARS-CoV-2 virus. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is the kind of virus that binds via its spike protein. And this virus will use the angiotensin converting enzyme 2, or ACE2, as an entry receptor in several type sites, including lung alveolar epithelial cell. This receptor, the ICA2 mediated, is followed by the activation of S protein in the viral envelope by transmembrane serine protease, a membrane-bound enzyme localized near the ACE2 receptor. In 10 to 15 of all cases, COVID-19 is complicated by severe pneumonia requiring hospitalization, with a high risk of developing an acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. Nah, how about the function of anti-PFA to interfere virus entry and replications? As we know, omega-3 PFA may modulate membrane life, where ACE and MPRS are mainly expressed. This two proteins is a protein that can help the virus enter the cell. ACE2 and MPRS2 are mainly present in lipid raft. Lipid raft exists in the membrane cell, and the lipid raft modulation may be an option to reduce ACE-mediated virus infection. As you can see in the pictures, there's a lipid raft, and they how the virus binding and enter the membrane cell into the inside cells. Omega-3 PFA can regulate membrane properties, such as membrane flux, fluidity, and protein complex assembly in the lipid raft. The number and size of raft and non-raft domain may also modulate in the expression, stability, and enzymatic activity of ACE2 and MPRS2. Then virus, after they can enter the cell, if the virus success to enter the cell, will manipulate cell metabolism, such as reprogram host lipid metabolism to provide virion replication membrane for a new virus. The isomer of the transcription factor, or SRABP, we can say it as steroregulatory element binding protein, are involved in this metabolic reprogramming. And omega-3 LCPFA are well-known intracellular inhibitor of SRBP transcription and maturations. So it will counteract the activating effect of the virus and lower its replication durations. So the functions of the N3PFA, as I explained before, can inhibit the virus to enter. If the virus success to enter, N3PFA also can lower replication duration in the body. And also the function of N3PFA is can be improve the resolution pace of inflammations. The LCPFA play a critical role in inflammatory process and intense immune response. As we know, inflammation is a biological defense against physical, biological, or infectious injury to body cell. There's a resolution pace, the pace that restores the affected cell and tissue homeostasis, and omega-3 PFA can activate the resolving pace directly in the site of inflammations. APA and DHA are main precursor for those resolving inflammation. This registers is expected mechanism of anti-inflammatory effect of N3PFA and N3PFA to prevent cytokine storm. When the virus enters the cell, it will binding in the acid too, and then it will give a signal to body to produce cytokine. Cytokine is the protein that can fight the virus. But the cytokine also can injure the body. It can be attack the body if there is excess, or if we can to inhibit the excess cytokine will fight to the good cell in body. So when we have a supplement of omega-3 from α-Linolenic acid will metabolize into eicosapentaenoic acid, docosapentaenoic acid, and docosahexaenoic acid. And this long chain POFA can be metabolized to produce PPR gamma. The PPR gamma is a protein in the body that can inhibit nuclear factor kappa beta. The nuclear factor kappa beta is the protein that can stimulate produce of cytokine. So in these pictures, we can see that when we have enough omega-3 PFA, it can help body to produce PPR gamma, and it can inhibit NF kappa beta to produce excess cytokine, and it will prevent the cytokine storm. That it is dangerous because when cytokine storm occurs in our body, the excess cytokine will attack the cell. And for next question, can potential cardioprotective mechanism of N3PFA in setting of COVID-19? As we know, beside of pneumonia, COVID-19 can cause a cardiovascular disease. So in this pictures from the paper, explain how anti-PFA can help reduce the symptom of cardiovascular disease. The first, anti-PFA will fix uncontrolled immune response and exert anti-inflammatory. This is same as what I explained in previous pictures. And then anti-PFA will attenuate the vicious cycle or interaction of mitochondrial dysfunction and aggravated immune response. So the anti-PFA will inhibit mitochondrial damage and inflammation. Anti-PFA also attenuate viral infection via both direct effect on membrane integrity and indirect mechanism through activating the humoral response to decrease over viral load. So anti-PFA can through the envelope lysis and humoral immunity, release antibody, and this end up with inactivation of the virus. Anti-PFA also can regulate PRA system in the favor of vasodilatory, the anti-inflammatory, and the cardioprotective effector. Anti-PFA enhance antioxidant capacity and attenuate oxidative stress in the tissue. And then anti-PFA will fix coagulopathy by exerting anti-thrombotic effect. Last, the anti-PFA with the mechanism that I explained before, it will play a key role in blunting the exaggerated inflammation observed in the patient with COVID-19. Then, what should be the quantity of total omega-3 and LCPFA supplementation? For general population and in primary prevention, we need at least 2.2 grams per day for α-Linolenic acid and 500 milligrams per day for APA and DHA. But in secondary prevention and for patients with symptoms and or which are tested positive for COVID, the optimal doses for both ILA and long-chain PFA omega-3 are not known yet because the research is still going on. But higher amount of omega-3 LCPFA, up to 9 grams per day in the form of fish oil, have been administered safely. And the conclusion, although this is still a hypothesis where clinical trials are still being carried out until now, increasing the level of omega-3 LCPFA in the diet, the expected could reduce impact of inflammation, accelerate recovery, reduce hospitalization, reduce duration of stay in ICU, and reduce mortality caused by viral infection disease such as COVID-19. Okay, this is the reference that I used for the presentations. Thank you for attention. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gusman, for the presentation. So today we have learned about a class of compound that have potential to reduce complication for the COVID-19 disease. And we have learned about the overview of lipid itself and also how can our body synthesize as well as the major metabolic pathway of this polyunsaturated fatty acid. And also we have learned uh, about the overview of SARS-CoV-2 and how the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acid can interfere the virus entry and replication of the SARS-CoV-2. Okay, so I would like to start the question and answer session now. Shall we? Okay, is there any one of you that have questions for Mr. Gusman? So if you have a question, you can just open your microphone and tell us what your question
Student
is.
person.
Okay, for the student first. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Gusman, can I ask?
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
Mr. Dimas,
Please.
please.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask. My name is Dimas. I want to ask about uh, what is the form of PUFA in the defense mechanism of what's your explanation before, like about preventing or curing or whatever with COVID-19? What is the form of PUFA when when it acts like that? Is it still PUFA or is it modified to another form of molecules?
Okay.
And the other, if it's still in PUFA, as long as I know, fatty acid or lipid, any kind of lipid in the body will be metabolized, right? Will be metabolized in
Yes.
our intestines. So how could make this PUFA not metabolized? So it will do as we said before. You know. Thank you.
Directly answer or collect the question?
So you can directly answer the question, and then we'll proceed to the other question after this.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Dimas, for the questions. From the paper that I've read, the form of PFA for the functions in the DES mechanism to prevent virus and something, in the form of these sectors, so the PFA, fatty acid, polyunsaturated fatty acid, omega-3, is in form of APA, DPA, and DHA, which is containing in the cell membrane, such like that. And then for the second questions, how the PFA is not synthesized is not metabolized in our body, become a more little particle, just like that. Yes. I've done read how this and why the PFA didn't break down into little molecule, but all I know about the lipid synthesis, the fatty acid is the smallest molecule that we can synthesize it with from the lipid. But if it will continue the synthesis, it also can be more little molecule, but in the lipolysis, the lipid will end up in the fatty acid. Maybe there's maybe that's all that I can be answers. If there's any knowledge from another audience, it can be helpful maybe.
Okay, Mr. Dimas, how is the answer? Is that okay for you?
Thank you, Mr. Gusman, for the explanation. I will research more about it first. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, such an interesting discussion and topics. Okay, next question maybe from the students. Baveli, maybe, or Cardinal.
Hello, Mr. Gusman. Hello.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Radinal.
Give your question.
Thanks for the opportunity. I would like to ask how long would the PUFA will give the reduction of the complication in the cell? I mean, how long does the effect will occur? Thank you.
Pardon, Mr. Radinal. How long PFA can
give the reducing effect for the severe complication COVID-19 in the cell, in the body? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Based on the paper that I've read, because the research is still going on, so there is no data or clinical data for the to support the research, but in the paper it said that how to say that the PFA can reducing the symptom of of COVID whenever we still have, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, as long as we have enough supplementations of PUFA, it can reduce the effect of COVID-19, like that. As long as we have enough supply of PUFA, because the PFA, the function of PFA is to prevent the cytokine storm that cause the injuries of our body, because when the omega-3 PFA is decreased, the PPIR gamma will decrease too, and when PPIR gamma will decrease too, the NF kappa beta will stimulate again, and the NF kappa beta will stimulate cytokine. When cytokine is too much in our body, it will attack the cell in our body. Then because of the attack of the cytokine, our body become bad or injured. I think that's all. I hope answer the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gusman, for the answer.
Okay, thank you. Maybe another question?
Pardon, may I a question?
Okay, sure. What do you need?
Thank you. Thank you for the chance from Julia Stefani. I am Rini Kurniasi. I have a question in this presentation. Said that the omega-3 anti-PUFA have or potentially as anti-inflammation for COVID-19. One question for me: what the advantage of anti-PUFA structure then and PUFA structure as anti-inflammation in this? to prevent COVID-19 infection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gusman, can you answer the question?
Sorry, Mrs. Leni, can you repeat the question? I can hear.
I want to know what are the advantage from N3 PUFA structure, then N6 PUFA structure as anti-inflammation in COVID-19 infection. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mrs. Harini, thanks for the question. I think, what about the advantage of anti-PFA for the preventing the symptom of COVID-19 beside of omega-6? Based on the paper that I've read, the differences between omega-3 and omega-6 is just like in inflammation case, the omega-3 will give an anti-inflammatory, but the omega-6 will give pro-inflammatory. So from the paper, actually we should to eat a balancing omega-3 PFA and omega-6 PFA by perbandingan 3:1, which 3 is for omega-6 PFA and 1 is for omega-3 PFA, because the omega-6 PFA also have a function to fight the virus, which is the pro-inflammatory that exert because by omega-6 is used by our body to fight the virus. As we can see in the pictures, there's omega-6 will stimulate nuclear factor kappa beta, which is it will access cytokine. But if we don't have omega-3 PFA and supplement, cytokine will uncontrollable and it will cause more injuries to our body. So what is the advantage of omega-3? I think as long as we eat a balanced supplement of omega-3 and omega-6, it will be okay. But the advantage of omega-3 is when we have omega-3, because when we have omega-3, it will help our body to prevent cytokine storm. that causing by omega-6 that excess cytokine in our body. I think that's all. Hope answers the question.
Okay, is that all, Mr. Gusman? How was it, Mrs. Rini?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gusman, for the answer. So we need to increase entry PUFA to reduce the cytokine storm of the infection of COVID-19. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Sani.
Thank you.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, Mrs. Rini asked Mr. Gusman about the structural benefit of the fatty acid itself. Am I right? So maybe the answer should be how the fatty acid is differs compared to the other class of compounds, maybe, yeah, in terms of the structure against the COVID-19. But I think it's okay. Is there any other questions maybe from the students? From Miss Feli maybe, or Miss Anissa?
Okay, I think that's all for Gusman.
Okay,
But before we close this session, I would like to inform Gusman that you have to prepare a description of your PowerPoint or description of your video in English, of course, and in Bahasa. After you prepare the two form, just send it to Miss Pindia. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah, the one thing that I didn't care about this one is about you should have, but not now. You should have a complete diagram of this COVID to let's say mechanism. So in this case, you have discussed just the only cytokinase syndrome, but somehow someday, if you want to continue this one, you should have the full or complete diagram of this one. Okay, this is only the only thing that you discuss is about this one. Okay, I think that's all for this afternoon. Thank you so much. It's good enough. Thank you once more. See you.